Hello and welcome to another video of Dominions 5. We are doing a nation overview for Porphyrion, who I'm going to be playing in a Hellenika game. It's a pretty cool game. I have to go look at the exact guest list, but I know Kirby is in it, Zan is in it. I think there are a couple other names as well, but I'm just thinking about the people who are somewhat near me. Friend of the channel, Arpatheus, is in it, and a couple others. So definitely Agrippa's in it. I don't have the list in front of me, but a lot of cool people in it. We're gonna be playing as Porphyrion, which is a pretty cool nation. So this is LA Phalegra, although it has experienced a number of changes, as all sort of Hellenica nations do, unless you're the elves, I guess. So first of all, obviously, it's moved to EA from LA. Lores rewritten, etc., etc. But let's just start by going into the nation overview, or the commanders and units. You'll see we're pretty far into the game. I already have cast Gigantomachia, which is, of course, the spell that is given to Macone, Phalegra, and Phalegra, which enables you to recruit these Laestrygonians. And this is what the nation, right, in a lot of ways is all about. For anyone who's not familiar, Phalegra, around turn 35 to 45, has their volcano erupts. And out of it come these monstrosities. The Laestrygonian Tyrant. Now, they've had some changes for Hellenika, but you can see, and we'll go through exactly what they are when we go through the unit, but you can see a monstrous unit. Tons of paths, super high HP, size 6, a lot of natural protection. Truly impressive unit. And so the nation, but you don't get them at the beginning. So it's a nation that sort of can often have a target on its back until they come online. And then you want to try, then you have a target on your back for a different reason because you've got these huge monstrosities. But in any event, let's go ahead and start going through the commanders, and then we'll talk about game plan and the pretender that I picked, and how I'm going to try and, for Hellenika games, they're definitely stronger than your standard nations. And so I really want to, if I'm playing a Hellenika game, trying to be doing something that's sort of busted. And I think I've got something here. We'll see if it, we'll see if I'm right. And even if it is busted, I could still lose, right? A lot of good players in the game, but we'll get to it. I have a strategy. But so first, we have just a regular commander. He is a slave and a taskmaster. Most of your troops are slaves. Everyone except your Cyclops soldier and the Laestrygonians themselves is a slave. So that means that they have really low upkeep. But they're going to have terrible morale, so you kind of want them to be led by these commanders that have access to taskmaster. Now, a lot of your commanders do. But so anyway, this guy, 45 gold, just a really basic little commander. Maybe use them in expansion, but not too much to write home about. Very cheap upkeep as he is a slave. You have the Porphyrion priest. So he's 65 gold, so he's more gold than your vanilla priest, and he is just a holy one. But he's also taskmaster, which isn't really relevant. He is a slave, so he is a sacred slave. So his upkeep is really low, 13 gold a year. Also, he reduces unrest. So, for those who don't know, Phalegra's dominion causes unrest all the time. And so that obviously negatively impacts your income. And typically patrolling happens after the income is checked. So even if you have new unrest every turn, even if you're patrolling it to 0 every turn, you're going to lose money. This is separate. The reduces unrest tag happens before income. So you can actually sort of cut that problem out before it impacts you, which is really helpful. In the unlikely event you get access to blood, it works with blood hunting too, right? You'll be able to help keep that unrest down and keep it from impacting the money of the population that you're hunting in. So great unit. You can do priest stuff when you need to. We don't have a lot of sacred, so blessing the sacred isn't that important, but having access to this reduce unrest is really helpful. The Porphyrion Cataphract Commander. So this is a 2 recruit cost dude with no magic. But he has a supply bonus, Taskmaster +3, so he knows that's higher than what we've seen so far. And he's also a slave. He is good. He's got 80 leadership, and with Taskmaster +3, he's going to be giving a huge bonus to your guys to help prevent them from routing. Again, probably mostly used in expansion. You have good mages who have leadership as well, so you're not going to be making this guy for too long. But if you're going to expand with the Cataphracts, which is very reasonable, he's quite excellent. The Shackled Mage. So this is one of our first things that has really experienced a change in Hellenika. So it's 5 research, you get 1 random skill, and just like vanilla, they are slaves and have communion slaves. So these guys always hop into a communion, turn 0 of combat, which is great. They have a research penalty, but they are not impacted by drain. So you can, if you're going to rely on these, or as we'll see another unit for your research, you can actually get away with drain, which frees up a lot of points. A lot of points for you to be able to use in Pretender Design or Building a Bless. So that's pretty neat. And then again, so these guys auto jump into communions, but they're a 10 HP human with 1 magic path, and it's all elemental. So it is extremely easy to get all these guys killed when you've got a communion going. It just takes a couple off path casts and they die real fast. So you need to be doing a lot of checking or a lot of math before you go into combats and testing. Otherwise, you're going to burn out a huge number of these Shackled Mages. And 70 gold, and they are slaves, so again, really low upkeep. That's really a theme of the whole nation. But our first non-slave unit, I think, the Porphyrion Oppressor, is fire, earth, and then either air or water. So a good elemental spread. All low paths, but he's a communion master. So he's going to jump right into the communion to make use of our Shackled Mages. So the low paths aren't quite as important. But yeah, all the elemental paths. So you've got these guys you can do fire arrows, wind guide, all the big elementals, all great stuff. Again, you want to try and probably script, if you can, if you know exactly what it is you're going to be up against, if you know you're going to be using mostly air magic, right? You want to try and grab these guys who've got air and try and grab as many air versions of your Shackled Mage just to try and reduce that fatigue impact. But 115 gold, not a slave and not sacred. So he costs a lot more per year than a lot of your other units do. And he is not a drain researcher, so he's going to be impacted. Next is the Oppressor General. So he's a little bit more expensive. He's got Earth and then another elemental path. Inspirational and Taskmaster. So he's great for leading your troops around. He's also a Communion Master. And he's got a little bit of armor. Help keep him alive in combat, and 80 leadership. So great at leading around your troops. Definitely going to be getting a bunch of them for that purpose. And again, because it's inspirational, instead of just Taskmaster, even other troops, you're going to get a nice little morale bonus. So very useful. Obviously, in terms of magic, strictly behind the Oppressor. But next is the Cyclops Commander, who is your only recruitable giant before the Laestrygonians come online, although he's only size 4. But he does have 60 hit points. He's got a magic weapon and a big javelin. He's also a Taskmaster. The main use of this guy is that you have Cyclops soldiers who refuse to be led by small guys. So if you're going to be leading around any Cyclops early, you're going to need a Cyclops Commander. Or technically a Shackled Smith. Now, this unit is the one that has received the most changes that we've talked about so far from vanilla. So, first, they've been renamed, right? In the base game, they are Cyclops Smith, not Shackled Smiths, and they've been renamed because they are now slaves as well. They are no longer cap only, although they do cost 3 recruitment points instead of 2. They have fire, earth, and then another elemental with a 10% on another elemental. And you're going to probably be making a lot of them, so you really do have a chance to get this 10%. A little bit of fire resistance, mountain survival. He's also a researcher in Drain. So another one that works as a research base. which is really helpful, right? Because you want a lot of these guys. We'll get through the reasons. There's a ton. So he's a Master Smith 1, so that counts as an extra path whenever he's doing things. So the Earth 2s, right, can make hammers right away. And those hammers synergize with his Forge bonus of 2. So with a Forge bonus 2 and a hammer, you make 5 gem items for just a single gem. And we're going to try and do this as our broken thing. Is make super cheap research items and give them out to all of our units. We're going to be able to make every single one of these guys forges a lightless lantern, either for 1 gem or 3 gems, depending on if they have a hammer or not. So we're going to try and if we can, get a little bit of research to help ourselves stay alive, and then go to Construction 6, get a big research rush going with a huge number of lightless lanterns. And in the meantime, to get there, we're going to be making owl quills, because those won't go out of style either. And again, at the price, at 1 gem, they're worth it. I know there's a lot of discussion on whether or not they're worth it in general, but I'm confident at 1 gem that they're worth the ticket. However, these guys do have homesickness, so you can't leave where you are. They have a resource bonus of 30, which is really great. We haven't gotten to the Hellenika troops yet, but they cost a ton of resources, so you're going to need a lot of these guys to be able to actually recruit your units. And then finally, they are also communion slaves, which is great for when you are defending, right? It's 95 hit points. You throw a regen on, and these guys are absolutely turbo communion ready. The problem, of course, is they don't leave home very well. They lose 10% of their life every turn. You cannot do regeneration on units with homesickness. They don't regenerate. What you can do is heal, like the heal spell in nature. If they're in a communion and you have gotten access to blood somehow, you can do blood heal, and that'll heal all of them up. But you don't have, it's a little hard to move them around, but they're great for helping you defend your forts. Very good at that. Now you do have the problem, right? You don't get to choose how many are communion slaves, right? They're all going to be communion slaves. So you need to make sure you have a mix of enough other mages to take use of however many shackled smiths you happen to have. But this is a tremendous unit, and it's going to be our most important mage before the Laestrygonians wake up. We're going to skip the Laestrygonian for a second because he wakes up later. The last mage in our lineup, who is cap only. This is our only sacred in the entire nation. 335 gold for a 9 hit point mage. He's old, but he's got all the elemental paths, plus astral, plus another 2 of fire, earth, and then fire, air, earth, or astral. So this is your only astral access. It's your highest astral access. He can also be your highest access into fire and air. He's a communion master. He's a taskmaster. Like I said, he's sacred. And he costs 3 recruitment points. Now, all these things that cost 3 recruitment points aren't quite as bad as they seem. We do get to start with a citadel. We can no longer build citadels. We get to start with a citadel. We are back in the early age, so very few nations get citadels. I think Macone is actually one of them, but in general, people don't get a ton of citadels. But so we're going to be making a lot of these before our Laestrygonians wake up. You do run into issues where when he is your only astral mage, most of these guys are going to be astral 1 and they have no support. So unless you can find lizards or another astral indie, they are going to get picked off by magic duel every time. So unless you get access to that, or you're fighting a nation that you're sure doesn't have access to it, they can be hard to bring to combat. And having the higher paths is not quite as relevant in your war effort because you have so many communion slaves and the auto communion power. But if you can bring them in, it's great. You just got to be careful because it is awfully expensive. All right, and then finally, what the nation is all about: the Laestrygonian Tyrant, 300 gold. So you'll notice actually cheaper than our Oppressor Archon, although he's not sacred, so the upkeep's going to be more. 130 hit points. So in Hellenika, all Laestrygonians got 50% more hit point or HP. The Laestrygonian units had their gold cost reduced substantially. All Laestrygonians had their base fire and poison resistance increased by 5, and their unsurroundable ability was increased by 4. Or 2-4. Yeah, increased 2-4, not by 4, sorry. But so this guy, 130 HP, size 6, no one's trampling over him, 19 protection, 16 natural plus earth magic, and that is without armor, so you can throw armor on this guy. Very good MR, 18 MR out of the box, 15 morale. His leadership sucks. You've got better leaders. No resources. He's going to cost 2 turns of capital recruitment. And once you have access to these guys, unless you have a really good reason to, you're only going to recruit them. You are not going to recruit anything else out of your capital ever again. 30 strength. He has 5 attacks. Club, serpent legs, snakes, which are magic and have poison. And then he also can chuck a boulder. So I guess it's 4 attacks plus a boulder. They're amphibious, although poor amphibians, but 4 fire, 3 earth, 2 death, and then they pick up potentially another small path, but obviously 10%, pretty unlikely. But anyway, yeah, so that's a 9 path colossal mage. They've got fear 7, out of the box resistance to fire and poison, so all you gotta worry about are shock and water. They're berserkers. So if you're going to have them cast spells, you can run into problems because they are berserkers. They have a siege bonus. They have recuperation. They eat a lot. They're heretics. You need to be careful. I have killed myself in little like test games, right, where you make them and then you just hit the next turn button a bunch because you're waiting for something, and then you heretic yourself to death. They are insane. So 5% of the time, they are not going to listen, which is very unfortunate. They are Taskmaster +4, so they're tremendously good at leading any slaves you give them. They just don't have a lot of leadership, though you can fix that with items if you need to. Bad at researching, and you don't want them researching because they cause 10 unrest per turn, so you need to get these guys out of your lands and into enemy lands as quickly as possible. Unsurroundable 4 is amazing. Obviously, one of the things that kills big units is when they're getting eaten up by too many enemies, and you're going to have a lot less of a problem with that. He also has Combat Caster, which lets him, cast spells in combat. You can run into problems, of course, with Berserker. Can make that a little bit tricky. But this is an insanely good super combatant. Excuse me. It's insanely good to put it into your armies as big casters in their own right. When we get to national items, you can also give him a national item that will put him right into a communion to use all those shackled mages. So this is, I think in Hellenika, the nation is less about the Laestrygonians because of a lot of the other stuff you can do than it is in the vanilla game. But this, in a lot of ways, though, this is still why you want to play the nation. So very cool unit. I guess mage. So now we'll get into the units. So you have Helot archers, super cheap slaves, 8 gold. So they have an upkeep of 3 gold per year. You can make oodles of these guys. And then that can be very relevant because you can then give them flaming arrows and wind guide. And this puts out, this lets you put out a huge number of helots per resource point, which is really important for Falegra. Costing the same gold, but like 6 times the resources, 5 times the resources, is your helot crossbowman. So he's a lot better than the archer. His crossbow is a crossbow, right? So it's 11 piercing damage, 12 attack, range 40, as opposed to 9 piercing damage, 10 attack, range 35. He's got plate armor, so he's going to hold up a lot better to incoming enemy fire. Some kinds of things. He's got a helmet, in case somebody rain of stones you or something. Decent protection. Obviously a much stronger unit, but the resource cost is substantially higher. So you're going to pay for that. You can definitely look to add both of these to your early army. If you're against elves, or if you want, again, flaming arrows, wind guide, stuff like that. The Helot soldier is a decent unit, another 8 gold, so same as our other 2. 10 HP, 15 protection. isn't like amazing, but for early age, it's pretty good. Bad morale, bad MR. Those are problems. Costs a ton of resources again, so you're gonna have cheap units, and you're really gonna have the gold to make as many things as you want, which you're gonna run out of as resources, which is why you need tons of those Cyclops Smiths. 10 attack, 12 defense, not great. Although he attacks for 11 with his broadsword. 16 damage, slashing is okay. He's a slave, and these guys do promote. I think I may have a promoted one ready. Yeah, they promote into these Ironbound, who become magic beings, and pick up extra protection, which is nice. Your next unit is a Mouflon Cataphract. So this is heavy cavalry, 30 gold, 47 resources, 39 recruitment points. Only 12 HP, size 3, 18 protection, low MR, low morale, but again, because they are slaves, you can buff that morale up pretty easily. 15 defense, and they've got a lance, a broadsword, and a headbutt, so a lance and then 2 attacks. They also have a supply bonus to keep your sort of hordes rolling, and as slaves, they have very, very low upkeep. But excellent unit. You can use these for expansion. You can use them in early wars as flankers, or even just charging into the front lines. Very nice unit you can throw. They're going to take a Legion of Steel super well. Go up to very high protection with decent defense. So definitely something to watch out for, and not too expensive. Your Cyclops Soldier, a little bit more annoying to lead around, and more expensive as he is not a slave, and you need a size 4 or larger to lead him around. But he has 50 HP, 19 protection, terrible MR. MR being low is a classic problem for the nation, and though you have astral access, the magic duel risk is very high. So getting that anti-magic off can be tricky, but it's definitely something that you need to try and have a plan for on the nation. Where he is great is that he has a magic weapon. So if you need magic weapons, this guy's going to be able to do a lot of good work for you. So that is super nice. His precision's bad because he's a Cyclops, but his attack's pretty good. And they've got some javelins that they can throw and hit pretty much anything with. Next up, we have the Iron Guard. So these also have some changes from vanilla. They become bodyguards, and a lot of their stats went up. I'm not going to go through each one, but these are 15 gold, so a little bit less than twice the cost of your other human mages, or human soldiers, but they have 14 hit points, 19 protection, low MR, still a problem, great morale, and again, they're slaves, so you'll be able to buff this. They cost 35 resources, they have a 14 attack, 19 damage weapon, and they're on 12 defense. These are cap only, but they're basically never going to break. They don't cost a lot. They are magic, which is usually bad. You got to be careful about that. But super helpful. They're great for expansion. Again, your biggest problem is your resources with these guys. But super nice to produce. They're going to hold the line up really well while your mages deal all the damage. And then finally, not available at the start of the game, and only if you have Gigantomachia up, is the Laestrygonian. So it's 225 gold for a troop, but 123 HP, size 6, 16 protection, 15 MR, decent morale. He's got a minimum leader size that he, is unwilling to work with. Fear, lots of fire and poison resistance, berserker, also a heretic, also insane. That doesn't matter, I think, unless you make these guys into commanders. Population killer, cause unrest, and unsurroundable. 28 strength. He's also got 4 attacks and a ranged weapon. Pretty low defense. So these guys can be buffed. They're going to love a natural protection bonus because their defense is a little low. But they're super big. Regen on them is going to be tremendous. And they are limited recruitment. Only one per fort, and only if you have Gigantomachia up. They also can be like Gift of Reasoned. And in fact, Okay, so that's we'll get to that in a second. So that is all of the units. So again, our strategy is probably going to look something like try and make as many shackled smiths as we can to hit a big big tech push, and then try and time that tech push with when these guys come out. So you're going insane with super cheap gear, higher tech than others, and these amazing chassis to wander around on. In terms of unique spells, you get a bunch. So you have in Conjuration, you have your usual sort of Mediterranean nation, Hound of Twilight, Cares, Procession of the Underworld. You also have Boil at a changed, I think it's the same spell. It's just only 3 fire instead of fire water as a cross path, I think, on the regular Boil. You have a unique evocation, actually, well, sort of 2. Titanic Trembler hits the whole battlefield, costs a gem, and it's going to paralyze all enemy units who fail an MR check. And it's going to be based on how high your strength is. And you'll see, right, those Laestrygonians have a huge amount of strength. It also, yeah, strength of caster added. It's armor negating, paralyze, difficult to negate with MR. Doesn't affect flyers, doesn't affect friendlies, and then larger strong enemy beings are going to have a chance to negate it. So, but against armies of smaller units, this can be hugely problematic for them. And you have access to it in 2 different ways. So this one is so your troops can cast it, or your like vanilla guys, and then this one is on your Laestrygonians. And you have Volcanic Eruption, which is the basic spell, except that I believe yours is cheaper. The paths might be a little different, but construction. We'll do items in a second. You do have the Brass Bull, which is another Mediterranean item, or Mediterranean spell. So Dragon Teeth, standard Mediterranean spell. In Thaum, you have Gigantomachia, which is changed slightly from the vanilla version. Its cost has been reduced and its research level is reduced. It is going to allow you to recruit Laestrygonian troops. Your Dominion gets a +3 conflict bonus, and the recruitment costs go down, which is sort of funny just because you can only make them with, well, it lets you recruit the Cyclops at a reduced cost, but with the Laestrygonians, it's the only way to make them, so you don't really notice a reduced cost. You also have Telluric Portent, which is a range 5 sight search spell. Costs only 3 earth gems. Targets only highlands and mountains. And it will find all fire, earth, and holy sites in those highlands and mountains. So, a useful way to do some sight searching. Now, this is a really cool spell we have access to that unfortunately I just don't think you can use very effectively as this nation. So a couple nations get this, but what this does, well, it's just us and the other Flagra, but what this does is it blesses all units in an area around the caster, costs 2 fire gems to use, and then it deals 25 armor negating fire damage to all those units and the caster. So the problem with that, of course, is that dealing 25 armor negating fire damage is a lot. So you need to sort of have your bless picked out ahead of time to figure out how to sort of incorporate that, and you need to have, figure out what units you're going to use, what summons you can use, etc. And this spell is also available to Flagra, and I think it's very worth it for them because they get it for free on the first, like Alt 0 or something. It still costs gems, but they have access to it right away, and ours comes at level 9. So you can't take a bless with this in mind. If you happen to have a bless, then, awesome. But I think that this nation is going to be a rush target. And I really don't think that you're going to be able to get away with saying, oh yeah, I'm just going to wait for level 9 Thaumaturgy to get my bless online. I don't think that's going to happen. Finally, you have some unique blood spells. You have no blood hunters, though you can get into blood using cares, Gift of Reason on cares. Your unique blood spell is Laestrygonian Feast, which is Gift of Reason, but for blood slaves. So if you can sort of break into blood, obviously it's a lot easier to get 35 blood slaves than it is to get 20 nature gems or whatever Gift of Reason costs. And then you can use that on lots of, you can use it on many different things, but primarily for us, I think you use it on your Laestrygonians. And they're going to turn into fire, earth, death mages. And, they've got all their all the slots, 123 hit points, good protection, etc. So you can definitely set up a bit of a factory of turning out a ton of extra thug casters. I mean, this is just a great caster. Now, it's not super cheap, right? This still costs you 225 gold and 35 blood slaves. But the chassis is very, very nice. It should be noted that none of the Laestrygonians get shoes. So they got snakes. Can't put shoes on the snakes. But that's a tremendous, tremendous option. If you've seen any of the other videos, you can also empower some of these other units to get some paths. Guess I don't have to do it with Laestrygonian Feast, but the Cares and the Lampads, I think, have paths as well. The Cares definitely. Yeah, the Cares are blood and death. So if you get into blood, you can, and you have somebody to do some death, you can make more blood mages using blood, which is always very powerful. In comparison to, so the standard, if you don't have any kind of unique way to do it, right? The standard way to make blood mages with blood is vampires, which all the way up at blood 7, and they cost you like 100 blood slaves. Because I think it got changed in this version. I want to say they cost more than they normally do. No, never mind. I'm sorry. So it's 77. So now they have much higher paths to cast it, but it's only 77. So it's a little bit more than twice as much to use Laestrygonian Feast. So you could get 1 vampire, or you could upgrade 2 cares. For hunting, upgrading 2 cares is probably better because you can give them a dowsing rod. And at blood 2, they're going to do a pretty good job of blood hunting. You could give them a dagger too if you really want to. The vampires obviously have a lot of great raiding uses. Although these guys are still stealthy and have invisible. They also cause unrest. And they're not immortal. But it's definitely an option. And you can use it at a much lower level of blood. Because even if you get into blood, right, you probably have a lot of other things you're after before you're going right into blood. High blood anyway. The Lampad gives you another access to Astral and access to Nature, which you don't have any Nature. So this unit is very helpful. They're invulnerable. They have Stygian Guide. Okay, they help move in Stygian paths. Okay, that's neat. But yeah, this is some cross paths you don't have access to otherwise, and Astral Mage is potentially to help. You're still not going to be able to get away from the problem of Magic Duel, though. Again, you're going to need some kind of other help. It's not going to be economical to get out of Magic Duel with these guys, I don't think. But so I think that's it for the spells. Next up is the items. You have a handful of new items. So first, you have a Crown of Sulfur. This is going to give you Sulfur Haze as an cast automatically. 2 MR, super helpful. Poison Resistance to help you with Sulfur Haze. Heat 12. So if you don't have fire resistance, I guess you're going to have some struggles. And Bless. So this is another way you could look to bless your guys. Costs 50 gems. So again, you are not just making this to, like, you can't take, I don't think you can take a bless and be like, yeah, I'm going to throw a 50 gem item on people. Your Cyclops cannot make this. Not that, at 50, an extra 2 bonus doesn't matter a whole heck of a lot, but Very expensive. I can see some uses. The MR is great. Sulfur Haze is a good spell. And Blessing is great if you have it. But I think your Bless is probably just going to be whatever you pick up on Thrones. So, well, it's sort of a game-to-game thing, whether or not that's worth it. Then we can check what level these things get forged at. So I don't remember. That is very powerful. So that is, what's 0, 2, 4. So that's at 6. The next one up is Robe of Sulfur, is at 4. And then your other item is at 2 and 6. So Robe of Sulfur starts battle is Sulfur Power, which gives you Phoenix Power, Summon Earth Power, and Mist Form. So that's tremendous as a start of battle spell right on your Laestrygonians. That is starting at Fire 5 and Earth 4, and then Mist Form to, is useful. Take away some of the edge of stuff. You get a temporary Fire Gem to do more stuff with it. And it only costs 10 gems. And you're probably going to have these paths on your Cyclops Smiths, so it's only going to cost 8 gems. And then if you put a hammer on it, it's only going to cost 6 gems. Now, it is armor, and you're not gaining any defense or much protection, but your Laestrygonians do have a decent amount of natural protection. So this is going to help them be really super casters. But you need a unit that has a lot of poison resistance, as this is going to poison the area around you. So, gotta be careful with that. Next is the Belt of Power. So, Reinvigoration -3, definitely a yikes. Now, you have a lot of Earth Mages, so they can offset some of that, but you're going to want to consider it. Fast casting 100. That means that you're going to cast spells, I believe, twice as often. So you're going to be able to just, and again, especially again, you have, you have potential for big communions. You have huge mages. If you put the robe on, right, you got Fire 5 out of the box. Fast casting is amazing in terms of getting stuff out before your opponent does, right? You get to hit them with evocations before their resistance buffs go off. All your buffs are going to go off first. Now fast casting is not as good as, I think, innate casting, which is a little bit different, but like one of the big things that make base Nazca good is innate casting, and this is close. It's not the same, but it's close. Now, you do have a minimum size and strength requirements, so you're basically only going to be able to use this on your Laestrygonians. So, worth keeping that in mind. This can be used on anybody, but it has tons of poison, so you need a plan for it. This can be used only by your Laestrygonians. But it only costs 5 gems. And so you can imagine putting this on almost everybody, as long as you can deal with the put up what's its face? Relief. Which you're going to need to have some kind of indie to do, but, we're here to dream. Find some way to deal with the reinvigoration, cast Earth Power, and that's going to be really awesome. Last up, Bowl of Ashes, shock resistance, and temporary Earth Gems. At a cost of only 5 gems means that you can buy this for just a single gem, as long as you've got your hammer sort of ready to use on this. And that means that you only have to use it once to become even in gems, though obviously you sort of wasted the turn. But if you use it a couple times, you're getting a ton of mileage out of it. And so and a little bit of shock resistance never hurt anybody either. But that temporary Earth Gem can be used to summon elementals, maybe to do a Moz, to offset, to defray some of the cost of bigger Earth stuff. They can use it to cast higher level Earth stuff. A lot of really cool options with this item. I forgot to forge it, but you have access to one more unique helmet, which has a new sprite, which is why I think I missed it. Ah, yes, the Oppressor's Headband. And no, we couldn't just look at it where it was. We have to make it first. This gives you MR -2, ouch. Command 20, magic command 40, warning 5. All fine, but not really relevant. The important part is the communion master. So this is going to let you put your Laestrygonians into communions on turn 1, if you want to. Now, they will crush the fatigue of your slave mages, but, you know, they're slave mages. And this costs 15 gems, so for you it's about 11. Expensive, but affordable. So I think that's all the unique items that we have access to, and I think all the unique units. But, okay, so let's go ahead now and transfer over to the Pretender creation screen and look at the god that I have decided to roll in here with. So, well, first, let's just think about what you want out of your god, because I think there's a couple of different ways you could go here. So first, you definitely are missing some magic paths, some entirely and some later in the game. You would love to be able to get into blood. You've got a unique blood spell. You've got items that, or priests help you hunt better. So you'd love to get access to blood. Personally, I think that going into blood through your Pretender is difficult. You're probably going to want your Pretender to do other things. Also, big nature would be very nice. You could theoretically go, classic expander, right? Take your Draken, take regeneration and like hard skin or something. I don't know. Do something with your scales. You get to dump drain probably, because you have mages that research fine in drain. Not that one. This one. So you can pretty freely get an extra 120 points by dumping drain. But this is just a representative thing, right? You could use an expander. You are a rush target, so you could also very much consider some kind of a dormant titan. All right, I'm going to pause while my dog barks. Okay, I am back. Apologies. Dog has been placated. So yeah, you could definitely go for some kind of a dormant titan. You have a Laestrygonian. He's a gem generator. He's going to summon monsters. I don't actually know what he summons, though. Or like a Telkeen. Very cool. You don't have a lot of good access to, high astral, death. You could go for like a Mother of Monsters to get some good death. Drakina gets you high death, is a Simos caster to defend you if you get rushed. I think a Titan is very reasonable. Shout out to the Great Archon, who must be taken dormant in this, but has Inspiring Researcher +2 and researches at 111 base, as well as having a 100 alchemy bonus. I think you can definitely take this guy. Just, don't do this, obviously. Just take, a small amount of these. I don't have like a perfect idea. And then try and take like maybe a bunch of fire and try and make a ton of gold using alchemy. And then he's going to help you research really fast. So that would sort of fit into the idea of what I mentioned before, of sort of rushing in, doing like a tech rush. And he is going to be able to defend you early. And he's got snake feet, so he's on theme. I think that he's from like a whole different part of the lore. But, he's got snake feet, so he's cool. There are other monsters you could consider. I think one of these goofballs casts, like, auto-cast Wailing Winds or something. I don't remember who it is. But it doesn't matter too much. So very, very possible you could take a Cyclops. You already have Mastersmith and all these paths, so I don't think it's as necessary, but you could do it. Titan of Forethought would be kind of like the Great Archon. One of the reasons I don't think you need the Great Archon is you actually just have tons and tons of gold. All your units are slaves, so your upkeep is crazy low. So I don't think you need the alchemy as much. But the research would be nice. You could take some kind of a dormant rock as well. And then these are two unique ones for Hellenika. This is a big do nothing gate. It doesn't do anything. You can't take a bless with it. A new magic right costs 1,000. And it just lets you get perfect scales. And then you, which you don't need because you have, I mean, like you can have magic. It's fine. You take it imprisoned. So you can get perfect scales. And then on turn 50, it produces 3 vastnesses commanders, which is pretty nice. It doesn't help defend you early though, which I think is somewhat difficult. But finally, I'll show you the one that I went with for this game. I don't know if it's the best one, but it's certainly kind of memey. We went with... we got to put the... Oh gosh. We went with the big rock. Yes, we went with the Rock of Ages. All right, it doesn't look as... Let's make it in the Pretender God screen. It's easier to see, I guess. So this is also has no... he has no magic, no matter if you like put stuff on or not. He does not going to have these paths. He has no item slots either, but he has 250 HP. He's size 6, 25 protection. He auto casts Rain of Stones. Curse of Stones. Sorry, not Rain of Stones. Curse of Stones. When battle starts. 40 strength, trample, unsurroundable, fear. He is the ultimate expander. And he's going to do an okay job defending you in a first war. Now, he's going to run out of usefulness. I'm going to pause for the dog again. Okay, so he's going to do an okay job defending you in a first war, right? People are definitely going to have to plan around Curse of Stones and him just trampling all over stuff. He's not going to do everything in a first war. He's going to need to be supported. But you have plenty of troops. You have plenty of mages. You just need a little bit of extra oomph, I think, to get out of the early game. And he's also... One of your biggest problems is you're very, very resource constrained. And so being able to... This guy can blind expand on turn 1. So I tested it a whole bunch of times. The only thing that can kill him is if he gets hit with one of the unique starts. Or one of the unique pop types. Like the Fenris Wolf Lamia makes too many wolves and he times out. But as long as you can avoid the Fenris Wolf Lamia, which I think is very doable, he can take just about everything. So you're going to be able to expand very quickly, and then because you have those extra resources, you can make a lot of stronger expansion parties and make very good expansion happen, and then use him to sort of roll into a first war. What you're giving up... Right, you're giving up any reliable access to blood or nature. You're giving up high access to astral, or reasonably high access. Right, you're gonna get astral 2 with some regularity, but not a lot. And astral 3 is basically never gonna happen. You are giving up on death until your Laestrygonians wake up. So there are definitely trade-offs. The bright side, even awake, you get to have great scales. Drain 3 costs very little for you because of the aforementioned Drain researchers. Misfortune, is misfortune. There's a couple of different ways that you could do the scales. Productivity 3 and Order 3, I think, are musts. I think that you could very reasonably do something like this, but I really like having luck at either Misfortune 2 or Luck 3. I feel like you get the most bang for your buck, but if somebody doesn't want to play with Misfortune, I would not blame you for going something like this. Your income is definitely going to be a little bit worse. The bright side, growth thrones, there are more growth thrones than anything else. And, temperature will go up and down. So we went with this, but You have access to some heroes, so you're not going to get as many of them on Misfortune 2, but I'm currently in a bit of a misfortune kick. I love my scales, or my free scales. So this is what we rolled out with, no pun intended. And yeah, so we're gonna try, and again, our game plan is to use this guy to buoy our early game. So you can technically rush somebody with this. Not every nation can deal with this rolling onto their capital on turn 5. And he has a siege bonus. So you could just go roll onto somebody and kill them if you pick the right person. I don't think we're going to do that because it sounds like really lame for everybody. And it's very committal. But in any event, this is what we're going with. I think the nation looks really, really cool. I'm really excited to try it. We're gonna buoy our early game with this guy, try and get a nice set of borders, take some thrones. He can take thrones that don't have elementals and aren't like super crazy, but he can take like the conjurer thrones, the sorceress thrones, all by himself. So we're gonna try and get some early thrones, get a good territory, and then we're gonna turtle a little bit as we try and get a big research lead. And then we're going to break out of our turtle once the Laestrygonians are awake, and we've got super cheap gear and advanced research for them. So that's the plan. Hellenica's got a ton of crazy stuff, a lot of great players in the game, so could very easily get absolutely blown out. I've played one other Hellenika game before, and I got blown out as Hinam on like turn 10, and I was dead by turn 17 or something. So we're going to try not to have that happen. But it's definitely a lot of scary stuff going on. But yeah, so this is our god. I think there's a lot of other ways you could play it. A lot of cool pretender choices. A lot of these pretenders do something else that they didn't necessarily do in regular dominions. So you have to sort of check each one, see what it is they do that's cool. But I'm pretty excited. I hope everybody else is excited for it as well. So hopefully we can start getting some of these videos posted soon. We're not too far into the game, so I can't go too crazy, but I'd like to start getting them out. So thanks everybody for joining me, and we'll look forward to discovering some cool Porphyrion strategies together. Have a great day.